Well, good morning. Welcome to Badshot Lee Big Pond, run by Farnham Angling Society. It's early October and this lake has been fishing unbelievably well for biggish bream, what I would say, in the kind of rarely do you get one under £6, but then rarely do you get one over £10, but we did have a double the other day. And we're catching sort of up to 20 in a morning, so it's incredible fishing. But this video is not going to be produced or designed to show you what rig I'm using, what bait I'm using, why I picked this swim, because if you watch my videos regularly, you'll know I'm on a helicopter rig. First thing I did when I get to this swim was get some bait out with the big feeder. Helicopter rigs, the rods are out, all clipped up nice and accurately. Triple maggot on the hook, and I'm sure through the course of the next 2 or 3 hours, because I'm not going to be here for long, because as I said, it's not about catching fish, it's about showing you something completely different. So yeah, I chose to swim very quickly because we've got a westerly, southwesterly wind blowing. There's hardly any wind. It's not the sort of day I would normally come down. I'd want a lot more wind than a 6 mile an hour wind. I'd want sort of like a 10-12 mile an hour southwesterly coming in this bank. We're on the mud bank, so this is where the wind's blowing, so this is where I've set up. But today, this video is slightly different, because what I'm going to run through with you today is going the distance. And what I mean by that is if the fish are out at 60-70 yards, you need to go there to catch fish, because this year on numerous occasions I've started fishing at 10-11 wraps, caught a couple of fish, and you know, conditions have been brilliant, and I thought, you know, I should be catching more fish, and I've literally, and I think we're just about to be away for the first fish. That might be a small fish actually. What I've done is I'm thinking I should be catching more, and I've literally gone to my marker sticks. I put an extra 4 wraps on, 16 yards, cast out, put some bait out, and basically I've gone from catching 1 or 2 fish in 3 hours to catching 10 in 90 minutes. It's that important. So what I'm going to run through today is all about trying to get, you know, showing you how to get that feeder out that little bit difference. Now, you know, I catch fish, I think, because, and I'm consistent in catching fish, is because if the fish are anywhere up to sort of like 90 yards, then I reckon I can go there. And as I said, this video is only created for the general club angler that knows he has, you know, his casting's not fantastic and he wants to improve. So it really does make the difference to practice your casting. And as I said, what I'm going to run through here is a few very simple ways of getting a few extra yards, and that might be the type of feeder you use. We've got small fish out there. The type of feeder you use, the line you're using, how you spool that up, but more importantly the technique in casting, because a lot of people do know that there's room for improvement when it comes to technique in casting. A lot of people here use bait boats, so a lot of the food goes out. Bream in general can be found away from the bank, and in this lake we found going, you know, fishing at 10 wraps, you'll get a couple in the morning. Going at 14-15 wraps within the kind of distance you're allowed to go, it's just going to open the floodgates and you're going to catch loads. So what I'm going to do is just deal with this rod. I think I've got a small roach or something on it, get the rods back out, and then we go through those little elements: feeder, casting technique, line, tackle I'm using, like the rod I'm using, which is very important throughout the day. Well, as you can see, I've just recast both those rods and I haven't even got this one out, and you can see it's going. So this is second cast literally, and we're into our first fish. A minute I thought that may well have been a carp, but which that was there, as you heard jump. We're away into our first bream. I've only just literally put the rods out, had a small fish sort of attack the left hand rod, so I just brought that in because my maggots could well have been chewed. Redone that rod. Whilst I'm doing one rod, I always do the other rod because then I can sit down and think they've both been out for, let's say, 20 minutes. That's if I'm casting every 20 minutes. I don't have to think, oh, how long's that one been out, etc, etc. They both go out at the same time, and I didn't even have time to really get that rod on the rest, that second rod, and put the bail on before the rod was away. So even in really not good conditions like today, although it's nice and overcast, it's mild, really mild for October. I think it's going cold at the end of this week, so although the bream fishing will continue throughout the winter, because you know this year I caught them in January down here because we had a really mild spell. You have to pick your days when it comes to sort of December, Jan, Feb. But at the moment it's fish a heady rig, put it where they are, and they were duly obliged because they know winter's on its way, they know it's going to go cold pretty soon, and they're simply going to feed up before the winter comes in here, because food is not going to be as readily available as it is at the moment. So good bream, as I said, rare do you get one under £6 nowadays, and occasionally you do catch one that goes 10, but the average size I would say at the moment is about £8, and it has to be one of the best fisheries in the country when it comes to consistently fishing for big bream on a club water, and you know, being able to, most anglers come down, put a feeder where they are and bag £100 plus a bream. It would be scary if I really spent a whole day down here and put my mind to it. My back wouldn't be very happy. But there you go, standard Badshot lead bream, second cast, in she goes. As you can see, proper fish they are. Absolutely beautiful, apart from they are extremely slimy. So just going to lift this one up for you. This is probably a small one, as you can see, probably about £7 that one, so slightly under the average size. So great start. Get her back and get another one. Okay, let's go through the easiest way for an angler who knows they want to get a little bit more distance or be able to go that little bit further out if the need arises, is the type of feeder you use. Now, most of the year and most of the time I use one of these block end feeders. Okay, this is a 30 gram, and as you can see the weight is located on the bottom of the feeder, so when it goes down it sits on the bottom like that, which is great. But they are a little bit clumsy when you go to cast. Sometimes they can wobble and you do lose some distance with these compared to another type of feeder, which I will show you. So I'm quite happy using this feeder up to about, let's say, what I'm fishing today, 15 wraps, as long as I've not got a really strong wind blowing. So they carry quite a lot of food, as you can see. You can plug your maggots in there, and they are probably my first choice feeder. This is a Browning cage feeder, block end feeder, put some maggots in the middle with some ground bait plugs either side, and away you go. But sometimes that wind might get up and you'll think, oh, you know, I'm struggling to get the distance. And that's where one of these weighted front feeders come in. Now, I hardly ever have used these in the past. I can remember a company supplying some to me years ago, and they're just a little bit, I think there was a big weight like an Aussie bomb at the front and some kind of like wires, and I couldn't actually fill them very easily. But Browning sent me some of these, and as you can see, there's like a circle of lead on the front. This is 30 grams, and the great thing is I can feed those like a normal feeder and plug some maggots in. And I'm not joking, using a 30 gram front loaded feeder like this will add 15 yards to your cast compared with one of those. So if I want to go, let's say 75 yards, which I can quite easily, well, not quite easily, with technique, up to about 75 yards with the tackle I'm using, in a slight headwind, I would be using one of those. This one's 30 gram, they come in 50 gram, and I think even I've got one here, that's 80 grams, and I think they even do one over 100 grams. The sort of distance you can get with a 100 gram feeder is frightening, but I think the bigger ones are designed for really big, European waters and fast flowing rivers. So as I said, there's two types of feeder, your standard block end and this cage feeder with the weight on the front. Now I would say get down your shop, get some of these. This is a Browning one, you're going to struggle to get those. Go to Phil's Tackle, Canvey Island, check it online and get some of these, because that will add at least 15 yards to your cast compared with a standard block end. Okay, let's just run through something very, very important, and that is the rod. Now, you have to buy the rod within your budget, but my advice for you is to go to your local tackle shop, somewhere like Apollo Angling at Marsh Farm, and ask the guys in the shop. That's what they're experts in, is you're going feeder fishing, you want to cast up to maybe 70 yards, you've got a budget of £100, and they will advise you. The rod I'm using here is a Fox Kevlar barbel rod. It's a multi-tip rod. Don't get too carried away with having to have a multi-tip rod, because in general most of them are rubbish. This was absolutely one of the best ever made multi-tip rods, and it comes with 175 tip, a 125 and another top section where I can put a 2, 3, 4 ounce tip in. Barbel rod, it's not really made for casting, but it's got a fantastic blank, and it does the job for me. It's just a fantastic all-round rod. But the most important part of this rod when you want to cast is the handle, the length of the handle. This is 22 inches, so you need a handle where you can get that pivoting power in the cast. A lot of the rods come with sort of 15-inch handles, and I go and put my hand on a customer's kind of like the rod and cast it, and I'm putting my hand down here, and that is just not conducive to casting distances. So I would say, looking at a handle, 22 inches is about right, okay. And the more you spend in general, the more you get. So there's some very good companies out there. I'm not naming any company name again, because if anybody is out there that's watching this video, they want to send me a rod, a reel, some feeders, some line, I will gladly put them in my video. Going down to your reel, this is a 4000 size reel, does a job up to about 75 yards. If you want to go further than that and use bigger feeders, you're going to have to get a 6000, 8000 reel with a longer, wider spool, because that will give you the line lay and to make a smooth cast. But at the moment I'm using a 4000 reel, but more importantly with this is I'm loading the spool up right to the brim. Now if you only got it half loaded full, when you cast, the resistance is going to cut down yards on your cast. So put your backing on there if need be. If it's a deep spool, fill it up with 150 yards of line, and that will make your casting a lot easier. This line, and I'll talk about line very, very quickly, this is a Browning reel line, Black Magic, and it's, what's this, 9.6 pound line, 10 pound line. The diameter is 0.23 of a mil, okay. Now that is a really low diameter reel line for its, you know, poundage breaking strain. So look for a line, if you're feeder fishing like this, that is quite, you know, quite a high breaking strain, but also a very low diameter. This line here is a corum line. I wouldn't be using this for feeder fishing because the same breaking strain is 0.28 of a mil, so it's that much thicker. But don't get me wrong, this line I wouldn't use for feeder fishing, but I'd quite happily take it barbel fishing down my local river where I'm fishing at close quarters, because it's got that abrasion resistance, whereas I wouldn't think, well, I wouldn't dare using this for barbel fishing on my local river. So different lines have different applications. In this case, I'm going for a low diameter, fairly high breaking strain, because obviously the force of the cast, you need that breaking strain, but the diameter means, and loading that up to the end of the, you know, right to the top of the spool, will just mean it comes off that spool effortlessly, and it, again, it will make and add yards and yards to your casting. Okay, I'm just going to repeat the process from a different angle on the other rod. So I get my elastic stop knot at the end of the rod. I then place the line in the reel clip, wind down. This is very important. When your elastic comes down onto your reel, make sure the knot is right at the bottom of the spool. If it's at the top, when you cast, that little bit of elastic, the line will be hitting it, creating friction, cutting down miles and miles of distance. So down on the bottom of the spool, make sure it is. Try and get into some, you know, a routine, a methodical way of fishing. Wind the feeder in. We have got small fish out there. I've just wound in. I mean, that one had only had one maggot on, and the other rod, the maggots were sucked. So going to repeat the process. 3 maggots on there, that's all right. Fill your feeder. This feeder is the front weighted feeder, so it will be a lot less forceful and smoother and easier to hit the distance and the direction. It goes like an, you know, like an arrow. So first thing you do is about wind that line into about halfway up the rod to where the sections are. If you go any lower than that, you know, it is risking break-offs, you see. So weight on the front left foot slightly here, because I'm going 15 wraps. Left hand right at the bottom of the cork handle, right hand around the reel stem, finger on the line. Look for the far bank marker. In this case, I've got a very small birch tree, and then simply swing it back past your ear, cast, hit the clip, lower the line down and sink your line, and you're away. As I say, the fishing isn't very good today, which is expected. I wouldn't be coming down here bream fishing on a day like today, but I've got a little bit of time that I can come down and just create a video, and hopefully you'll take on board a few of these little tips, gain a few more yards to your casting and your accuracy, and you know, put more fish in your landing net, because let's face it, that's why we come fishing. And another one that I say to all my customers is this: just like a golfer lowers his handicap and improves his distance and accuracy when playing golf, they go to a driving range. We don't have that luxury, we have to come to a lake, but that can annoy people. But what I say to my customers is go down a local football pitch, get a metal dustbin lid, put it at 50 yards, 40 yards let's say, start at 40 yards, drop a lead in there and walk 40 paces back. Put your line in the line clip, wind it in, and then look at your dustbin lid, cast, hold your rod up and try and just lower that lead to hit that dustbin lid. And when you can actually do that more often than not, then put it at 50 yards, put it at 60 yards, but don't go putting it at 70 yards, because initially you might be all over the place. So as you can see, we do have small fish out here, which are kind of like doing the maggots. So yeah, a few little tips there just to get you a few extra yards, and if needed to go where the fish are showing, you can do, and you can catch more fish. Okay, so there you have it. Got down here at 8:30. Pretty much shot this video in an hour. That bream was the only one I had, came quite early, but that can be expected on a day when you come down bream fishing and there is absolutely no wind. I knew it wasn't going to be, you know, loads and loads of fish. I came down here just because I had some time to kind of run through, putting a few yards extra on your cast, going where the fish are if you need to. So I hope you've learned a little bit from here. If there's anything else you want me to kind of cover in future videos, just let me know and I will note them and show them throughout kind of like the session, the videos I've done when I'm out on the bank fishing. So thanks for watching, subscribe, thumbs up, and if there's anything I can do, just email me. If you want to send me any products, anybody, then just email me for my address and I will gladly show those through my my future videos. Going down on the Kennet and Avon, doing a bit of perch fishing on the chopworm, and obviously going to be doing a lot of trotting for grayling and chub when it gets a little bit colder, because it's October, it's pike season, but it still feels like summer.